All right, Shalom. I want to begin by giving all glory and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Chakadash. The honors our beloved elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom to all the Aki and pushing this truth for sincerity. It's your brother Atazawan from the GMS Columbus, Ohio branch. Coming back again with another video through the Spirit. The Lord's will is edifying. And pretty much through the Spirit, just wanted to do a quick hit video. All right. Just concerning the brotherhood, getting with brothers, linking, all right, dealing, as we say amongst the camps, you got to deal, okay? And pretty much this is inspired by, this last couple days, this weekend, me and the beloved brethren, got to go to the Indianapolis camp and deal, etc. All right. And in the midst of that, like brothers know in GMS, when Jake gets together, his precepts being brought out, elders speaking, exhortations, chastisement, all right, cuss outs, so on and so forth. Brothers getting cut, okay, through the Spirit, which, was all for our betterment, all for our growth, etc. Okay, and that's why it's vital that you deal with brothers, all right? You link with brothers, okay? You be around, all right? That you may spiritually increase, okay? And especially now, concerning the times, it's vital that, we come closer, okay? And feed off each other's spirit, help build each other up. Okay, concerning the times, you see? Okay, the scriptures say exhort one another daily. Let's just get it. This is Hebrews 3:13. It says, but exhort one another daily, while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin, right? So we got to exhort one another. All right, because, man, and that's one thing you notice as well. When you go to other camps, is all brothers are suffering, all right, in different ways, Some brothers dealing with mental plagues, some brothers dealing with infirmities, some brothers dealing with financial issues, some brothers dealing with, two out of the three, and then some brothers dealing with all three, So, that's why, getting with brothers and being around, man, is something that's needed. Okay. And, like I said, that was just something I was meditating on because, I noticed every time, Jake links up, rather, we in Cleveland, Chicago, all right, Indy, DC, whatever. Okay. You always gain what you need spiritually on that trip. All right. It may have been something you've been, needing to hear or something, you needed to acknowledge. And, the confirmation comes from a brother via the Spirit just speaking. All right. From a whole nother city. Okay. Or he may get on you about something, whatever. Okay. But this is this is what the brotherhood produces, man. All right. It produces men. Produces men of the Lord. Okay. Where we fashion and shape each other and help mold each other. Okay. And help each other, with our problems, so on and so forth, man. You see? And this is why you got to be around. All right. Brothers, I know elders, some elders, get on brothers about not being around. All right. You got to be around, man. And like I said, concerning the times, man, we got to, grow closer together day by day, man, because at the end of the day, man, it's going to be us against the world. All right. But, I also was thinking of this precept too, Hebrews 10. And let's go to 24. It says, and let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. You see, to provoke. Real quick, I'm going to look that word provoke up. Provoking in medicine, to induce, to stimulate. All right. It says to call forth, challenge. It's like, yeah, sneeze. It's like it. It says the general of urge, incite, stimulate to action, right? Stimulate to action. That's good. Okay, so you're provoking. All right, so we got to, provoke. All right, to stimulate. Let's look up this word, stimulate. Galled, excite, or rouse to action, right? Stir up, Jake, like Jake say, stirring up each other's spirit. You stir up Jake's spirit. All right. That's an attribute of exhorting. All right. Picking your brother up, You know what I'm saying? Because Jake goes through it. All right. And like I said, when you're around brothers, etc., it's like a spiritual charge, man. You look at each other in, each other's gate, each other's eyes, and, you see your brother suffering, man, and, it's war. Okay? It's war, man, and, you gain this love and affection for this man. Okay? As a soldier does, because, ultimately we are soldiers. This brotherhood, this bond. All right? And, like I said, in the midst of this war, Jake gets low, Jake gets weak. Okay, you got to exhort one another. You got to be there for your bro. All right? The Lord's will entitled this, get with your bro or get with your brother. All right? But continuing Hebrews 10:25, it says, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves, right? You can't forsake the assembly, man. You got to be around. You got to deal, okay? In order, like I said, to grow, to gain, to, support, be charitable, to show brotherly love. How can you show brotherly love if you're not around? How can you be brotherly if you're not around, if you don't deal, okay? As the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. You see? One more time. As the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. Right, and the day is approaching. The end. Okay? So like I said, in the beginning, as we draw nigh, man, we need to draw closer to each other, man, to the body. Okay? Scripture say two better than one. I forget the exact verse in Ecclesiastes. Yeah. This is Ecclesiastes 4:9. It says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Right. Two is better than one. All right. If one falls, the other can pick them back up, vice versa. Okay. This is, the body, is very, very vital and important, man. All right. Yahweh Shai had his men, had his camp. All right. That way, we can look out for each other, man. All right. When Yahweh Shai, let me see, find that 2x2. Heap disciples. He sent them out. 2x2. Let's see if I can find it. In the Gospels. This is Mark 6. And let's get to the point, verse 6. He says, and he marveled because of their unbelief. And he went round about the villages teaching And he called unto him the 12 and began to send them forth by two and two, and gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse, but be showed with sandals, and not put on two coats, right? So when he sent forth his disciples, all right, he sent them out two and two. All right, he made sure they had, they each had a brother with them. All right, you see, but that's just how important the brotherhood is, and how important that we stick together, man. We got to stick together, bro. All right, I always tell brothers here in this camp in GMS Columbus, we all we got. I done had visions of this very city, our people's coming up against us, man. So we got to pray for one another. Enjoy each other's company. All right, deal. All right, put away all the bullshit. Whatever the case may be. All right, and buckle down, man, and be grateful for that, brother. Be grateful that the Lord doesn't have you out here alone and stranded. Now some brothers' walk is to be alone, and I'm pretty sure, in all regards, we are alone. All right, as individuals, but we're not lonely. Okay, and I feel like through the Spirit, we all will have a point where we have to be alone and face our lot, solo. All right, but like I said, we're not lonely in any event. All right, because we got Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and we got our fellow companions, our fellow brethren, going through the motion like we are as well. Okay, so that was it. Just something quick, through the Spirit. I was observing, and I want to push out, man. So with that, I'm gonna give all glory and praises to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rachak Shalom.